Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, and is Wizards about to do something drastic to Standard? Like get rid of it, change the definition of it, split it, do like a block constructed two-part thing in addition? It'd be less of a split, and it would be more forking. They would fork it into a different version. It's like a software term. So the options in my mind are, obviously one, something I haven't thought of. Two, do two-part blocks and go back to block constructed, and just have Standard and block constructed. And historic. And of course I'm talking in the context of Arena because that's where all the players are still. Duh. So if you're not familiar, block constructed always was a thing. It was just like more of a definition. I don't know if it's ever been like a formal thing. They probably have it on MTGO as an option. But if you're not familiar, there used to be 3 sets to a block, and then you'd get the core set, and that was a year. So, that was a full year of product releases. They went to 2, and then they went to 1. And the reasons they did it, I completely agree with. The community was like 95% on their side with that one, so it would be weird if they went back on that. But, I mean, if you go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 sets legal, and I don't know what you'd do for the core sets, I mean, yeah, you wouldn't be able to build as powerful of decks, but I think it would almost get more repetitive, because there would just be one clear deck that's the best. I mean, you go to Strixhaven, white or white mixed Magecraft spell spamming is going to be the best deck. Clearly, clear as day. Go to Keldheim Angels, they're going to rip anything apart. So they'd have to balance it too carefully. I don't see it. So the most popular option online, everybody thinks they're just going to rotate Standard early and not just once. A lot of people just saw me talking about it like months and months and months ago when I kind of read the writing on the wall. And then they've kind of extrapolated it to something I also mentioned, just kind of putting the idea out there, and people are kind of rolling around and mentioning it on subreddits as, maybe this is right. They just split the last set, the Innistrad, Werewolves, and Vampires, into 2 separate sets, which will make 9 sets legal in Standard before rotation. They had originally announced it as like a 2-parter, kind of like a double set, where I just assumed you open a booster box and you get like half of one and half of the other, or they're all labeled the same, and you'll sometimes get a 1-set pack and sometimes get another set pack, and it would just be a 500 card set. So not really 2 sets, but still kind of 2 sets. And it would up the rarity. It would kind of be a disaster for, paper playability, but whatever, okay. But no, now it's 2 separate sets, and it's not even being sold at the same time. They're splitting them by a month. And I heard now that they actually just changed the release date, again, of one of the sets. Now, why would they, when they know that 8 is problematic and they never wanted to do it? Because remember, they did change rotation to be twice a year, so that it was 456, 456, I think, was the rotation for number of sets legal. That would have worked so much better. And then a couple, whiny, loud net decking douches are like, I can't play my lands for an additional 6 months. And that's when lands were like actually expensive. They haven't printed lands over $5 in like, what, 2 years? So they rolled it back. They were cowards, and they were just like, oh, the community's mad. We're scared. Even though it was like 5% of the community didn't know what the hell they were talking about. They're just greedy, and they're sick of dropping $800 on their net decks. They just want to buy one deck and win with it. And they wanted everything to be handed to them. Typical net decker attitude. I just want to spend my way out of this, low effort, copy someone else's work and get free wins, and then pretend I'm good at the game. So yeah, typical F&M rooting douche that everybody resents and makes the game not fun. So yeah, they went back on it, but they knew that 8 was too many, and I don't think it ever was 8, because remember, it was like on kind of like a funny rotation because of how they did the sets, or the sets in the blocks. So they have been aware for many years that 8 is too many, and the Standard meta gets really, really bad the closer you get to rotation. And right before it, it's unplayable. It's been unplayable for months for the last 2 rotations, maybe 3. I don't remember exactly when Amon Ket and Chain Whirler were. Because that's when they just outright said, we would normally ban it, but rotation is just in 6 weeks. And then, kind of read between the lines, so just don't play Magic for 6 weeks. And people were like, you have got to be kidding me. That was a lot of people's last straw, and they just quit the game in enormous numbers right before Arena came out. So that was great. So now the community has been rumbling over this nonstop online, just saying, rotate early. I can't wait for rotation. In fact, I'm not going to wait for rotation. Rotate now. Rotate early. And you know what? Permanently cap it at 6. In fact, it might even be 345, 345. I don't remember exactly how the math and the timing would work, and Innistrad's going to throw it off anyway, but is the reason they split it in half into 2 sets and then moved them apart is to kind of gently ease people into the rotating early thing? I think yes. And then you look at the fact that they haven't banned anything in Standard for 3 or 4 or 5 ban announcements? I mean, holy crap. I haven't seen hard numbers, which is what they tend to use, but nobody's happy with the state of Standard. It's not even like, oh, has a deck exceeded a 55% win rate consistently for over a month? Let me pull up tournament results and look at other metrics. Active users on Arena. That is the only statistic you need. And in fact, active users playing Standard Constructed. Look at that number and then tell me that you don't need to make a ban, okay? So just the fact that they haven't like pissed people off twice indicates when they know they should ban something from Standard. That has to be clear as day to them. That indicates that they don't want to anger people twice. Like I said, they're gonna say, screw it, we're rotating out early. Nobody's gonna miss Ikoria, that mutate stack bullshit. Nobody's gonna miss Throne of Eldraine. Those are the two worst sets ever released in the entire history of Magic. So do they want to like ban and try to like semi-fix it, like 50 to 75% fixed Standard, and then just leave it with, you know, even less deck diversity because they eliminated most of the problematic decks, and then announce that they're rotating early? Nah, they're just ignoring it until they implement what they want. And I think, you know, restarting structured play with paper in North America and other places, okay, now's a good time to do it. Numeric-wise, for how many sets are legal, now's a good time to do it. We're about to have another set released. Now's a good time to do it. I'm just saying. I'm going to be surprised if they don't announce that they're rotating early, but they'd have to admit that they made a mistake. Or they could just totally just gaslight everybody and be like, here's the reason we're doing it. Everybody's going to be like, yeah, that's the reason. Yeah, that's definitely it. It's not player dissatisfaction and an irreparable state of Standard. No, it's because of that reason you pulled out of your ass. Yeah, sure. I think they'll do that. I think we'll see an announcement that'll be the most disingenuous pile of shit in the history of Magic. But everybody 3 seconds later will be like, fine, whatever, okay, and then maybe go back to playing on Arena. But I mean, there's some cards that wouldn't rotate, even if we rotate early, that are pretty darn bad. But I'd say they'd get rid of 75% of the toxic meta, and then if they just announced a ban announcement at the same time, we could probably get it back to a state the quickest. Now think about this. That's an important factor about are they going to do something drastic to change Standard? How would they fix Standard the normal way? Okay, wait for one rotation, and then we've still got some broken crap from the last year, then wait for another rotation, and the entire time they'd have to be selling, or well, let's be honest, not selling. They'd have to be releasing and not selling new sets that are extremely underpowered and can't compete with anything before it. So that you would just contribute nothing to the Standard meta for 2 years in 2 full rotations. So have garbage sales of Standard in paper for 2 years with the player base whining about underpowered crap just to reset the power level. That's how long it would take to flush out all this garbage from Standard. Do you think they're going to do that, or are they going to pull the rug out from everybody, you know, do a big ban and then rotate early? Which one would get them more money the fastest? Or I should say, which one would lose them less money? I mean, if they saw both as 2 valid options, it is pretty darn obvious which way they would go. Just like it's pretty darn obvious that you should check out the link in the description to go to Into the AM and check out some of their dank new shirts coming out if you use code DESTHREADS. That's right, DESTHREADS. You can get 10% off your entire order. I think it'll add it automatically if you use my link, but I don't know, try both. They've got some aggressively priced t-shirts, and they're so comfortable, I usually wear them to bed. In fact, I got 3 plain ones in my last order just because, you know. They are the most comfortable shirts I own. They've got insanely good quality printing on it. I mean, I just love them. And the designs, I mean, I've got a couple up on the screen right now. They are great. They usually got a 3 for $60 going on, too, which is, you know, pretty good. But I heard rumor right now they might be doing a 3 for $55, just saying. And yes, you can add my discount on top of it and get it down to just under $50 before taxes and shipping. My gosh, I think they've hit a lower price point than my own Teespring store. They got a crazy clearance zone. They got like all kinds of like athletic shorts and other stuff. Oh, they also got the monthly t-shirt club for a crazy low price. That's awesome. You should check that out too. So it's been very popular with you guys. I got really good feedback and insane sales numbers, honestly. So I brought it back this month. So, you know, if you haven't checked it out, just go check out the designs. Even if you're like, nah, man, I'm broke. Just go take a gander at the designs, man. They're wild. But otherwise, if you got some dollars sitting around and you want to help support the channel, go take a look at your current wardrobe, feel ashamed, and then freshen it up with some fresh new looks. They got styles for everybody. So back to the video. Okay, they held off on bans for now because it won't fix anything. If you plan to fix it more drastically in the future, It's like, why clean your carpet if you're about to rip it all out and just restore the hardwood under it, you know? Like, why be disruptive twice? Why rock the boat twice? It does make sense, although, I mean, look at the number of cards they'd have to ban to make Standard playable again. So they're probably just like, well, nothing really stands out. You know, there's 3, 4, 5 extremely toxic, non-fun decks. Even if we banned them all, I mean, you could ban all the way back down to Dance of the Manse and that Doom, whatever the hell card, and people would still hate that. I mean, they've printed like 100 cards that nobody wants to play against that aren't fun. They're too good at control, they're too good at card draw, they're too consistent, they're too early, they're too hard to play around, or they give you too narrow of a time to respond. So what are you gonna do? Ban all of them? I mean, you gotta change your design philosophy at that point. And then what do you do about it? Like, okay, from now going forward, we'll change how we do things and we'll lower the power level. Because remember, Mark Rosewater took a survey and he found that his own fans said 74% of them think that the standard power level is too high and needs to be calmed down. And almost every comment saying I voted the other way says, I don't play standard, I just want high power crap for my commander deck. So their opinion is invalid. Basically, among his own fans, 90 to 95% then adjusted are people who said, no, this is completely unacceptable and I'm not having fun and things were better before. Which, if your brain functions, yes, you would probably think that. I mean, it's just absurd to think anything else. I've always told people, if you like super high-powered, crazy back-and-forth matches that can end on turn 4 or turn 30, because that's just how it works, Commander and Modern. I mean, I say Vintage and Legacy, but I don't even consider those to be Magic the Gathering. They're a completely different game. They're quite honestly an embarrassment. None of those cards were meant to interact that way, and it's a different game. It's that simple. But yeah, I mean, ultra high-powered cards, try every card ever printed. I mean, that's Commander. You know, there you go. You lose your consistency, but it is self-policed by the play communities instead of, you know, the idiots running the ban list. So there you go. Go play that. And then if you want, like, even higher powered than Commander, arguably, at least from a consistent standpoint, consistency standpoint, that would be Modern, of course. And hell, if you still want to play Arena, go play Historic. I mean, that's crazy high power level after the 4 anthologies, all of which were disasters. Plus the secret hidden anthology, aka the 61 Mystic Archive cards. Oh, plus the secret one, which was Jumpstart. I think those are all legal in Historic. Yeah, it's basically reached parity with Modern at this point. I mean, they wanted to cater to people who like high-powered Magic, and wait a minute, that's interesting. That brings me to our next point. They've artificially pumped up the power level like crazy of Arena so that Arena kind of has its own Modern, you know, because like MTGO has it and Arena doesn't, and people are getting sick of Standard. So they've created a high-powered format and just thrown cards into it at like, you know, by the hundreds, technically. Why would they do that unless they were about to lower the power of Standard? Or change how Standard works? Like I said, they could just redefine it to be something completely different that I can't even conceive of right now. I mean, they might just straight up say Standard is now limit 3 per deck. You want to talk about lowering the power level, keep the deck at 60 and lower the limit to 3. And just, that's how Standard works. Modern stays at 4, Commander stays at 1. Just think about that. You want to, like, take a bucket of water and dump it on the dumpster fire that is Standard and lower the energy, the power level, the consistency, limit everybody to 3. I would not mind that one bit. I've been talking about that for at least the last 5 years, that they should do that. I've also talked about, if we're going to talk about crazy-ass death ideas, label control cards. Would basically be creature or permanent removal, land destruction, and counter spells. They would just be a new, like, secret super type, subtype, side type, not a type, classification, card, something. And then you can't have more than 16 of them per deck. There, the end. We'll never see Esper Control ever again. Thank God. Hallelujah. Get that crap out of here. Another thing I've mentioned that they could do if it was an emergency, and the funny thing is I said this like 3 or 4 years ago, and we've got an emergency, folks. Limit every Standard deck to 2 colors. Just say Standard is a 2-color format. You are not allowed to have color identities past 2. I don't think they would do that because they like to do a couple mono sets, a lot of 2-color sets, and very, very often, at least once a year, a 3-color set. So they just wouldn't be able to do that anymore. And I think 2-color, like, mathematically, depends how you do it and how many combinations you have. Because remember, like, Ravnica had 10, but then you could do 5. But if you kept it to 5 and then sometimes did 10, you could probably mix it up to the point where it's like 1, 1, 1, then mono, and it wouldn't feel that repetitive. But I mean, still, just print a bunch of universal cards. Don't even try to make them go together and just see what people build. I mean, then you wouldn't be like, oh, it's this, you know, Is it deck again? Oh, there's that Azorius deck again. It's like, well, if the set doesn't have Azorius and the one after that doesn't have Azorius, aka blue-white, well, then you'd be building a different deck every time. And then what if you're like, oh man, I could drop half of Azorius and then pick up half of, I don't know, some Strixhaven School and then, you know, make it work with just those two colors, but I'm limiting it to two colors and somebody comes up with a creative new idea. Okay, but that much of a harsh limit? Wow. But I think that would make it honestly really difficult for Wizards to keep coming up with new ideas and stuff. But if you look at the number of decks that keep winning over and over and over and keep getting banned cards, almost all of them are either mono red, mono blue, because those are the big two problems, or three colors. Just any three colors. So those are the drastic actions they could take, and those are only the things that I could think of off the top of my head in the last couple years. What if they up the deck size to 80? I don't think they would. That would disrupt sleeves. That would disrupt shuffling. I mean, deck boxes. That would fundamentally change the game. But then again, I would say the exact same thing or worse about double-sided cards. And, well, nothing stopped them there, did it? So I know you guys have probably been thinking through all this like, oh, that would be interesting. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Oh, that would fix the problem. I mean, yeah, this is an interesting video, even in my opinion, you know? I'm interested by it just by recording it. They could get really wild with this. They could get really drastic. And if they did one of the limiting fixes, a permanent mathematical fix to kind of power stuff down, they almost wouldn't even have to rotate early, but they could also do that. Or just say, you know, next rotation we're changing things. We're going to go to 6, you know, with fair warning. And then preferably stop printing, you know, $30 fetch lands in Standard, which I believe they said they're never doing again, but there's a lot of stuff they said they're never doing, and, well, they did it. Like Storm back in Standard, and then they were like, oh, the Izzet Guild needs something. 1,000-year Storm, and just don't print the word Storm on it, except in the title. I mean, I've heard some interesting theories out there. They could just say mythics are banned from Standard. We're going to keep printing them. They're basically for Commander and for Modern, but you can't play any of the mythics in Standard. Hell, they could limit Standard to what they call Artisan, or they could just push Artisan as like a second thing. Like I said, they could fork it or fracture it or split it or however you want to say it. They could have Standard, okay, for the people who love, you know, torturing themselves. And then they'll have like real Standard, which is just the commons and uncommons. And they call the other one like Standard Classic or Standard Plus. I've had more fun playing Artisan, even Historic Artisan and even Artisan Brawl, than I have anything else on Arena, except for maybe the really silly things where like, you know, like you don't even have to pay for the spells and stuff. Like it kind of gets old quick, but it definitely was chaotic, crazy fun. That's for sure. So like Momir, that was pretty nuts. I had fun playing that. But I don't think they're going to make Momir the official new Standard format. Call me crazy. I mean, they could, but I wouldn't. It's literally digital only. Like, what would you even do at FNM? They could convert Standard to Singleton. I mean, like, they could just say Brawl is now Standard. There is no Standard. You want to play something Historic or Modern? In the end, goodbye. And then just, you could make any card a Commander. It wouldn't have to be Legendary. I wouldn't mind Standard as Singleton, I'll be honest with you. In fact, I would prefer it to be an 8 set and then rotate thing, because then you'd have more cards to build in a pool. I mean, with Singleton, it's going to get a little tight around rotation time, you know what I mean? Only 4 sets to pull from or whatever. So, I mean, I think they're going to do something like that. Now, do they really want to sell everybody in the world 4 times less cards and convert it to Singleton? No. So, like, that by itself almost eliminates it. But if it's still a 60-card deck, you still have to buy 60 cards. It's just if the demand goes down for each card, every card's going to be 25 cents or less. Like that, it should be something kind of like that. I mean, they could just then, in that case, also expand the sets all to 350 cards. They could change the standard life total to 30. I've read entire essays by Mark Rosewater about why they're not doing that, but that would slow the game down. That would offer a little power level. It would favor, his number one complaint was it would favor control decks, and that is not something you want to do. Oh, hell no. Limit it to 2 colors at the same time. Hey, there you go. So, I mean, they could do any combination of things. I'd say buckle up and get ready for something crazy, because I think the least crazy thing they would do is rotate standard early compared to the other measures they could take. So what is their other option? Sit here and lose customers, bleed customers, you know, just everybody's gone. They'll just focus on shoving more overpowered commander crap into standard until standard's dead, and then what? Nobody buys their standard products. Then what? The company dies, okay? Modern and commander players do not spend that much money. They might pick up 1 or 2 cards every time something new comes out, and that's it. Even MH2, people are going to pick up maybe just a handful of cards. I mean, standard, you can grab 40 cards of a new set and, oh, I'm doing the Strixhaven Magecraft deck. You know, there you go. Like, that's a possibility. People do that. You can't get rid of standard and just expect the company to keep going, okay? They'd be making so little money, it would be ridiculous. So I think that at this point, they know. They look at the numbers and they're like, oh, we had a record year. Yeah, bullshit, first of all. And secondly, secret layers. And stupid, abusive, you know, changes to online platforms and all the other last-second emergency shit that they had to pull to make any kind of money. It kind of swung the other way. They made a bunch of money, but they know that they're in trouble. They know the active users, active customers are bad, and if they want to be delusional and say it's all COVID, okay, go for it. I'm sure that played a little bit of a factor, but all through COVID, they lost more than 50% of their active players on Arena. It's closer to 75% at this point. How do you explain that? That's like that new Netflix competitor that's like, oh, we're going to blame COVID for us going under. No, your platform was garbage. Look at like online streaming numbers. Like, you got to be kidding me. So if they really want to be honest with themselves, they should go into a meeting on a Monday morning and just be like, we are in trouble. What do we do? Okay. They can't just say, oh, well, wait for rotation. We made a mistake. I guess we'll crank down the power level a little bit. And then we'll just add artificial rarities for the collectors and put them on cards that are for commanders, sell them to the whales, and we'll ride it out for 2 years until standard kind of partially resets. I mean, I could see them doing that, but there is precedent for them making drastic changes in the past. Like when they invented modern to get rid of extended. They just saw extended, they're like, this doesn't work. People don't like it. Here's something better. Okay, let's decisively move to it. And yeah, that was a good move. I mean, it's that simple. They'd even made changes at standard before. Hell, they looked at the game initially and said, maybe we should limit people, because there was a deck called, you know, Channel Fireball, thus the name. And they're like, maybe we should limit people to 4 copies of a card. And then they did it. They rolled it out. They're like, yes, there's more upsides and downsides, and let's go. There used to be no limit. I don't know if you guys knew that. Way early on, there was no limit. Even the concept of banning cards, that was pretty new, and they're just like, we got to do something. Okay, let's do that. I mean, they really do adapt and evolve. They really do. They don't learn from their mistakes, apparently, at all, but they do adapt and evolve and try to clean up their mess after the fact. And then, you know, blame shift and lie to the customer base. You guys know what they do. It's, you know, an ongoing cycle. We've seen enough examples of it. But they do try to fix their mistakes after the fact. So what are we going to see in the end of 2021? Leave your best guess down below. Which one of my crazy theories do you think is the most likely? Or do you think bare minimum we're going to see rotation early and a permanent cap of 6 sets legal? Or 5 or whatever. It's going to be 6 no matter what, and might be 7 with Innistrad, and it's complicated. Will they just release 3 sets in a year instead of 4 and just say, hey, we're going to start printing, you know, MH1 in its place, or MH3, a Modern Horizons, for Commander and Modern players, because people have moved to those formats more than Standard. So we'll only do 3 Standard sets. So we'll rotate once a year, but you're only going to see 6. That's what I forgot, read right past it in my notes, that I think is the most likely. But I guess that's fitting to leave it till the end. So what do you think they'll do? I mean, you could be the boring person saying nothing. Who cares? The economy's going to collapse anyway, and people are going to be killing each other in the streets for a loaf of bread, so who gives a shit what they do by 2022? I mean, that is a valid assessment. I mean, the going price for MH2 makes it look like they're about to, like, I guess if it was Bitcoin, it would be an exit scam. A golden parachute they're all about to just bail out. They know the plane's on fire, so they're going to collect as much money as they possibly can, which is why they have a record year last year. Is that what they're going to do? You can tell they're ready to jump ship if they just say, you know what, screw the reserve list and then reprint it. That'll be the, okay, yeah, we're trying to cash in and then we're all just going to quit and we'll just let the game die. That's when you know that they've given up and that they know the game's in an irreparable state. But there are other formats that people still play, so I wouldn't jump ship on the whole thing yet. I would just take drastic action against Standard if I were them, and I think they will. Like I said, I very much think they will. So thanks for watching this very interesting video. If you thought it was very interesting, leave a like, maybe even subscribe. And most importantly, don't forget to check out the link in the description to Into the AM. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.